Hey guys, and long time no see. I'm doing my evening stroll of the garden and wanted to bring you guys out to finally go over all of the varieties that I have planted in here. Now, I am not done planting for the 2024 spring gardening season, but that's mostly because I have 3 beds that are currently being taken up by onions and garlic, and those won't be replanted until I harvest them in about a month. So I've still got potted plants, just kind of waiting it out until I pull up my garlic and onion. Let me get in the shade so I can see the camera better. So I have a mosquito net out here. This last week has been really terrible for trying to shoot videos outside. If it's not super windy one day, then the next, because there's no wind, the no-see-ums, the biting gnats, are out here in full force. There's like 1,000 of them flying around me, and they bite, and I swell up really bad when they bite me. So I am covered in bug spray, but they tend to dive bomb my eyes and my mouth, so I might end up putting this on. I'm sorry guys, it cannot be helped in this spring season here in the desert Southwest. But let's get to it. Alright, so for those of you new to my channel, welcome. Here's my garden. And these are 2 5 by 10 beds that I built and just installed this season. The rest I have had for at least 6 to 8 months. And typically I work south to north, going along each row of beds just to make it cohesive and in order. So what I'm going to do now is start with the outside beds, the brand new ones that I built this year, and then we'll just go along our tour as we normally do. So here in this first bed, I had decided to make it mostly a cowpea, watermelon, and various flowers bed. Now, of course, all of this should be taken with a grain of salt because I have a terrible habit of just putting extra seedlings that I've started wherever they'll fit and dropping random seeds into garden beds whenever I feel like it. So sometimes things just appear where they weren't supposed to be. But for the most part, I have started some over here. I've started some watermelons from seed, and then here were some I had started in pots and then transplanted them out. And along this fence line in both of these side beds, I decided to do cowpeas, and these are the going to seed variety of cowpeas, which is not really one variety. It's a smorgasbord mix, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to come up out of here, but I'm very excited to try this seed packet this year. And I have discussed goingtoseed.org ad nauseum on this channel, so I'm not going to go into it tonight because I'm going to get eaten alive by gnats. But definitely check out goingtoseed.org if you're interested in seed saving, regenerative agriculture, and preserving heritage and heirloom seeds. Unfortunately, I have not had the same luck with germination on this side as the other bed, but I'm fairly certain it's because of this barn we have. When the sun is still in the south in the early part of the spring, most of this area is shaded. So I just don't think the bed has gotten a good amount of heat that it needs to germinate these seeds. So we'll keep an eye on it. I'm not giving up hope just yet. These guys right here are wild loofahs, and they look like they've got a bit of like nutrient damage here. I don't know what happened. I just transplanted these guys out. This one looks the best. Usually if I'm transplanting out from pots seeds that I've started myself and I have a couple seedlings in one pot, I will transplant both of them in their, same dirt at the same time, because I would rather make sure that one of them lives if they decide to go through transplant shock in my garden. So I will just let them grow a little bit together, and then once I see which seedling specifically is thriving the best, I will chop the heads off the other ones. That's what I usually do. And in the rest of this bed, I have done something which I've never done before. Extensively planted corn in a raised garden bed for the purpose of harvesting a bunch of sweet corn. I've had pretty good germination on this. Still missing a couple spots, but I see that guy's coming up a little bit. I'm hoping I'll get more germination. Just give these guys a little bit more time. The nights are still pretty cool here, so it's not super hot enough to germinate the seeds that love hot weather. This corn is called double red corn. I believe I've purchased it before from Seed Savers Exchange. I've never actually successfully grown corn on the cob. I did get some stalks last year, but they cross-pollinated. I had both sweet corn and like dent corn, so I didn't eat any corn. I've never eaten corn, sweet corn, that I've grown myself. So this year, hopefully, will be the year. Here we've got an 8x4 bed of onions and then a 4x4 of garlic, as well as a 4x4 of garlic on that side. And this is the reason that my garden technically isn't fully planted out, because I'll be harvesting this garlic here in the next couple weeks, maybe in the next week. I've got a lot of bottom leaves here coming off. So I usually like to harvest my garlic when I've got the leaves die maybe up to about here. And there are so many different sources that you can look at that will give you different times of pulling up your garlic. Some will say when the first bottom 2 leaves, when the first bottom half of the plant. Some say let the plant die completely. I've had success with about halfway up the stalk dying before I pull them out, and I also do test pulls. So I've pulled out 2 or 3 stalks of garlic from both of these beds, and they weren't quite big enough yet. Their cloves weren't defined, so I know those weren't ready. So I do still need to give these guys just a little bit more time, but then they're coming out of here. And although I'm excited for this large amount of onions I have this year, I have had a problem with some of my onions bolting. These, oh God, there's 3. These 3 and probably 6 others that have bolted is not a good sign. So this is the beginning of an onion shooting up its flower stalk. Onions are biennial plants, so they bulb up and you get the onion harvest you want the first year. If they weren't harvested, they would send up their flowers to reproduce the second year. So not only should my onion not be flowering in its first year, it also really shortens the storage life of the onion, because this flower stalk, let me pull up another one. Ooh, that's a big one. That's kind of cool. So this flower stalk actually extends down into the middle of the bulb of the onion, just leaving it open for bacteria and rot, and it's just not going to last as long as you want in storage, which is my primary goal. When I'm growing over 100 onions, I want them to last a long time. But it's fine. They all haven't started bolting. I'm hoping it's just a fluke, a couple of bad onions that just are a bit stressed. If the whole thing, if all of my onions bolt this year, I'm going to be really disappointed, because the same thing happened to me last year. And here in this garden bed directly north, I have 4 tomatillos, which I've been pulling off these blooms pretty regularly, and they are coming back with a vengeance. These plants really want to give me fruit already. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4 tomatillos and then 4 eggplants with a smattering of some plants thrown in. I've got chamomile, basil, these here are zinnias, and a tiny little calendula. I'll take that, thank you. I've already started harvesting a ton of calendula from another plant that overwintered. So I'm so excited. I didn't get a whole lot of calendula last year because my plants died for some reason. So I didn't get to make any salves, because I make this really awesome calendula salve. So this year, hopefully I will have enough to actually make another batch, because I really like giving them away as Christmas presents. And I like to pull the blossoms off of my plants for like a couple weeks after I transplant them. These guys have been in the ground probably for a week and a half now. Just so I want them to get more roots established, so they're healthier by the time they start giving me fruit. And over here I've got chives, which have successfully lived for 3 years and come back every year, as well as this mint, which looks so healthy. This looks way better than it did last year. And I've got a stray sunflower. I don't know the kind, but it also kind of looks like amaranth. I actually have no idea what that is. Could be a sunflower. Could be an amaranth variety. I have no idea. I assume it's a sunflower because the common or Mexican sunflower that I plant every year in my in-ground garden, well, I don't plant it anymore. I planted it once and it spread seeds like wildfire and came back with a vengeance. So I just assume that every one of the sunflowers I see popping up in my garden are from that. In both of these small little 1x4 beds, I just have extra garlic that I stuck in here last year. And these are going to be a little bit longer to mature than these guys because they were planted later. So these are probably going to be in here for a while these beans come up and begin to trellis, which is fine. These beans don't need a whole lot of room. Their roots are really small right now. So I'm not concerned with these guys taking a ton of nutrition. And they'll be out by the time the beans are pretty big. And here's the other garlic, which will come out in the next few weeks. I'm pretty excited to get this out of the ground so that I can replant it with some more peppers. Hooray! Here in this front bed, I've got 8 tomato plants. I am growing them and trellising them the same way I did last year, using this small cattle panel. And I can go through all of these tags with you guys, which would be super cool if the sun didn't just completely ruin most of them. So this is, oh look, I wrote on the back. That's good. So this is one of the going to seed varieties that is self-pollinating. I planted a couple going to seed varieties this year. And I've never grown the going to seed varieties of tomatoes before, but I've been really pleased so far because I started them all from seed and they were just really vigorous, healthy looking plants. I'm excited to see how they hold up in this garden because I'm not sure where they came from. They could have come from a hot environment or a not so hot environment. So we'll see. There's several of the going to seed tomato plants in my garden, and I've got more in pots that I will plant later when I get these guys out of the ground. This right here is borage, and I'll go through these tomato varieties. This is a giant crimson, the seeds from M.I. Gardener. These are saved seeds from a giant crimson tomato plant I had last year, and this is a German pink tomato. This beautiful calendula is where I have been harvesting blooms from every day, and I should have gotten these while they were open earlier, but I forgot to come out here. My back is getting chewed up by these gnats. It's the one place I couldn't spray myself with bug spray. And on this side I have the Estiva. It's an F1 hybrid from Johnny Seeds. Thorburns Terracotta, which I believe I got from Baker Creek. Over here I have the Isis Candy Cherry, which is a new cherry tomato variety I'm trying this year. And I would tell you guys what this one is, but the sun has bleached both sides. I thought I would be successful with my name tags this year if I wrote in permanent marker on both sides of the tag, and I was not successful. So we'll find out when it starts giving me fruit. Here I planted peppers in this bed the same way I planted peppers last year. I really kind of wanted to crop rotate a little bit, but just the way that it worked out, I ended up having to put peppers here. So it'll be fine. I've got several different varieties in here, and I'm not going to read through all these tags with you guys, but I know I've got red chili, green chili, jalapeno, Thai hot, shishito, maybe a canary bell pepper. But I had pretty poor germination on my peppers twice when I started all my seeds. So I've since started more pepper plants. They're just really small and not in the transplantable stage, which works out fine because I've still got to take these onions and garlic out. So hopefully those seedlings will be ready right about the time that my alliums come out of the garden. But I had to start more peppers after. I can't not have peppers. I need at least 3 8x4 beds of peppers or more. Maybe I should just only grow peppers. Here in this 10x4 bed, I believe it is, I've got tomatoes. I've also thrown in some flowers. I've got a zinnia here, calendula, more chamomile, another borage. This is a leek. I'm not sure of the variety. It could be American flag or King Richard, but it's going to seed, and I decided to leave it because I have some leeks over here that I'm hoping will also go to seed. And that would be incredibly cool if I could get some leek seeds this year. That'd be awesome. Leeks don't cross-pollinate with onions, so how I showed you those onions going to seed over there, they wouldn't cross-pollinate with the leeks, so I would have to have another one of these guys go to flower. I'm just not sure it's going to happen in the time period that this is going to be ready. I have researched that leeks do self-pollinate, but only like sometimes. I don't know. I'll have to do more research. It's not hurting anything. I don't mind leaving it here. It'll be a pretty flower at the minimum. Got some ginger over here. I've grown ginger before with success, but I've transplanted these guys out and they don't look too great. So I'm not sure what's going on, but hopefully they make it through and I get at least twice the amount of ginger I planted in here. See, here's some of the leeks. And you can tell the difference between leeks and onions because the leeks leaves are like flat and scooped. Like a flat leaf, but it's scooped. And then the onions are fat. They're thick boys. They look like straws. So these ones are leeks. And then I've got an onion right here and a couple onions over there. See, that's just me throwing random things in beds. So real quick before we move on, let me discuss all of the trellises because I have trellises that run across every bed down this garden path. So I have a pretty big problem with roly-polies, or you might know them as pill bugs, but they are everywhere in my garden. And as much as they stink because they like to eat seeds and seedlings when they're coming up, they're really beneficial in your garden because they actually break down organic matter. So they're creating compost for you in your garden, in that garden bed. So that's cool. But the problem is it makes direct seeding like beans and other things that want to be direct seeded, squashes, really, really hard because if they don't eat the seeds, they're gonna like lop the seedling's head off right when it comes out of the ground. So I have been using this product just this year in earnest called Sluggo Plus, I believe. It says it's a snail and slug killer, but it contains iron phosphate. I hope I'm right on that. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. But it essentially kills pill bugs when they eat it by making them not want to eat or something. I don't know. It's a certified organic pesticide. I do not use pesticides hardly ever. But I really needed to use them this year because I can't get anything to grow from seed in my garden because of these roly-polies. It has been largely successful. I have had more success this year with growing plants from seed than I have in any other year prior. I still had some losses though. And I had to keep reapplying it, which kind of stunk. I had a little canister like this and I went through the whole thing just starting seeds for this spring season because I would just apply it and a couple days later it would be gone or dissolved or eaten. There would still be more roly-polies. I would have to reapply it. That seemed to work the best when I came by every couple days and reapplied. I had pretty good germination rate, but I wasn't 100% scot-free. Now I say all this to preface I planted bean seeds, various bean seeds, across all of my trellises several times over the course of the last month. If I would lose some to roly-polies or they just wouldn't come up, I would just sow more. And I stopped keeping track of what I was sowing where. So I do kind of have a rough list. I wrote it on a paper inside, but I have definitely thrown random bean seeds in every bed that I did not record. So I really want to tell you guys which ones I put where. I can list to you all the beans that I'll put them somewhere, all the beans that I did plant, but I honestly don't know what they're gonna be until they grow up, until I'm harvesting them. So I'm sorry I could not keep track. I was just like a mad woman throwing beans left and right because I was so upset that they weren't coming up. So it's going to be a while before I'm able to tell you with certainty what beans exactly I have in each garden bed. I do this every year. I'm sorry. I can tell you what beans are in here though. These are the California Black Eye number 5. They are a bush cowpea that I grow every year. Amazing, very prolific, great bean to grow. I have a ton of seeds for the California Black Eye number 5 that I have saved. So I just decided to do this entire bed with these cowpeas this year, and I had decent germination. I mean, when you look at it from ground level, it looks really nice, but I have a lot of spotty areas where roly-polies came and ate my seedlings or my seeds. I am absolutely gonna have to re-sow this, but it's still really good germination. By all accounts, it has been way more successful for me this year than in previous years. So I am happy. And now the final part of the garden, the in-ground garden bed. I have decided to keep this covered for this year. Just one half of the in-ground garden bed, not the entire thing, but I had a really, really bad battle with Bermuda grass in this part of the garden last year, and it did not get better over the winter like I thought it would. Let me show you. This is what the entire area looks like. And this is not just on the surface, like this is deep Bermuda grass. That's so much grass. And I have talked extensively about my struggles with Bermuda grass. This is really the only good turf grass that grows in this area. And I have it all over my property, although of course it seems to like my garden better than the rest of my property. So I am usually pretty okay at managing it because I stay on top of it. But out there, I just got overwhelmed last year and I kind of let it go by the wayside, which was my fault. So I'm gonna have to take this whole year to just keep it covered and cross my fingers that at least what's under there will die. It obviously will come back because I have it everywhere in the garden and it spreads both through above ground, stolons and underground rhizomes. So anything that's over here will eventually creep back out to there, but what I need to do is completely redo the cardboard mulching I did on the bottom of that garden over there, because it's done. And I didn't feel like doing that work for myself this year. I had already a ton of space with these 2 new beds. That was a cool bird. So I wasn't worried about it. I didn't need the in-ground garden space, and it would just make my life a whole lot easier if I let a black tarp kill the grass for me. So what I have mostly in the entire in-ground garden bed is going to be squash, and it's almost 100% started from seed in-ground, which is an amazing feat, guys, when you have a roly-poly issue. But yep, almost all of these guys, except for what you see over there, the big ones, these are some transplants, just a few. Mostly everything else though was started here in the ground and was successful. So I have tons of varieties, and basically the way I labeled it was I put a tag at a starting point, and I obviously plant these on each dripper emitter. And so this is the going to seed fig leaf gourd, and that will be a fig leaf gourd, and that will be until I reach a new tag. This is the going to seed machada mix. So I've got 1, 2 of those before I reach a new tag. And I've also got some various flowers in here. This is perennial catnip. This has been here for, this is I believe the 2nd year in a row. Also some calendula. I started quite a bit of calendula this year. I think because I was so upset that I didn't have any last year. And now I have way too much. I'm just throwing it everywhere I can, including in the in-ground bed. I don't think it's gonna do real well there, but I think it looks pretty. And as long as it lives, it'll at least give me 1 or 2 flowers. Y'all, I am getting eaten alive. Hey guys, I am so sorry. It is the next day. I actually had someone show up to my house right after that last clip, and then it got dark and I didn't record anything. So here I am, next day to finish off this video. I was done with the tour anyways. There were no more beds left to show. Of course, there's always more stuff to talk about, which will happen in the next video. But for now, I just wanted to sign off and introduce you to the brand new batch of meat birds that we have for the spring season. They are so fun when they're this small, and they're cute, and they jump around all willy-nilly. I had originally ordered 20 meat birds for this spring season. My mom does not need any more chicken until the fall, when we usually do a round, but Chase and I and the kids were not going to last until the fall, so we decided to just do like a half batch of the 40 that we usually do. Unfortunately, I have lost one chick so far. Kind of looked like a runt, and had a bad leg and just didn't make it the day after we got him. But the rest look really healthy and happy, and they're growing and they have tons of energy. So super exciting stuff. I've got food growing in here, food growing out there. And if you guys want some more information on meat birds, I believe I have a playlist. I'm pretty sure I have a playlist, at least regarding chickens, and I have done 2 videos. Oh my gosh, the gnats are in here. 2 videos with when we butchered them. So if you want to take a look at those, feel free. But I'm going to head inside because I'm in the garage and I'm getting eaten by gnats. And I will catch you guys on the next video.